A lot of people who could benefit from working with a financial advisor never do, and often it's because of myths and misconceptions about who financial advisors are, what they do, and who they're really for. That's why in this episode of the podcast, I spoke with Farrel Liger, a man who spent his career on both sides of that relationship and can dispel those myths so you can get the help you need. My guest today is Farrel Liger, a Wall Street broker and financial advisor with nearly 2 decades of experience in wealth management, financial education, and philanthropy. Farrel began his finance career in 2007 at Bank of America and has since held key roles at some of the most recognized names in the industry: JP Morgan Chase, Morgan Stanley, Guardian Life, and now Forte Capital Group, where he specializes in portfolio construction and asset allocation. He holds FINRA Series 7 and Series 66 licenses, along with multiple insurance and mortgage certifications. Beyond his professional work, Farrel founded Farrel Liger Inc. in 2019 with a mission to empower his community through financial literacy and education. He also founded the nonprofit Foundation of the World, dedicated to advancing education, health, and wealth initiatives worldwide. He brings that same spirit of accessibility and empowerment to everything he does. Welcome to the show, Farrel.
Thank you for having me, Steve. I appreciate the time today.
Absolutely. It's a good topic. Before I hit record, I said to you, in a lot of my podcast episodes, I'll say, folks, don't go out there and do this stuff. You should talk to a financial planner. You should talk to a professional about what's right for you. But I think a lot of people think that, well, they don't have enough money for a financial planner, or they cost too much. And there are all sorts of misconceptions about financial advisors. So I thought we'd talk about that today. Hopefully our listeners will feel more comfortable saying, yeah, I should get a financial advisor. That this is something for me.
Yes.
So you've been in the industry for over 20 years. So what would you say are the most common misconceptions you hear people express about financial advisors?
Oh, man, we've heard it all. I appreciate that question. So basically, when you're looking at financial advisors or people in the space, when we're making phone calls and making introductions, you hear the backlash or feedback. Oh, are you guys a Ponzi scheme? Is this like the Wolf on Wall Street or Gordon Gekko? I saw greed is good. They'll quote lines from different meanings, and they'll try to pigeonhole every single person into being that one type of individual. There's no one size fits all for attorneys, for physicians, for accountants. Why should every single financial advisor be boxed in to this one negative connotation or painted in a particular light when we're not all the same?
Right. And I think
Just
that
because you
goes
have
to
a
a
few
lot of
bad
professions.
actors. Yeah, exactly. Just because you have a few bad actors doesn't mean everyone across the industry it has the same motives or has same similar outcomes. Financial advisors help people all over the world create, manage, and protect their wealth, and that's what we ultimately look to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, as I said, all sorts of professions. And as a lawyer, I experienced a lot of that with misconceptions about lawyers being greedy and,
Yes.
screwing over their clients. And you
Yep.
see all sorts of advertisements for lawyers. And I think that some of these advertisements just hurt the profession because they're giving the wrong impression. So
Yeah.
certainly and Hollywood isn't helping with movies like Wall Street or Wolf of Wall Street or any of these or a lot of Margin Call
Yeah.
and The Big Short, where they're
Yes.
saying that people manipulating the markets and for their own gain. So
Yep.
yeah, that's a tough stereotype to get past. But besides the stereotype and the image that financial planners have, uh, what else do you see in misconceptions about them?
So common misconceptions, and I have to be objective when we're talking about this.
Hmm.
Some of the things in the movies are justified. Like you look at '08, '07, and
Hmm.
things that happened. There were people involved that had their hand in some of the crisis that was created.
Hmm.
However, people were also involved. People were also at the forefront of that. I mean, when they say greed is good, people are being greedy. You know that you couldn't afford that second or third or fourth house, but because someone offered you a mortgage, you took it.
Mm,
And that's why I believe, you know, some of it is justified, some of it is sensationalized. They sensationalize the information, the message, the movies, in order to draw a crowd, tell a story, something that's convicting, something that's insightful, or gaslighting, even if you can even go as far as that. But
mm,
that's why financial literacy and financial education is the greatest guardrail and tool to protect from things like that happening again.
mm,
Because you can't protect from greed. However, if you're informed and educated about information or decisions that you're looking to do, then possibly you'll make a better decision. You'll make a more informed decision and you have a better outcome. So
mm,
financial literacy and financial education can help prevent the next '07, '08, can help
mm.
prevent individuals from being misled or taken advantage of, can help prevent people from actually causing global crisis from negative or terrible financial decisions.
Mhm. And a lot of times it comes from not understanding how a lot of finance works. If you look at
Yes.
margin call, there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with mortgage-backed securities. They were actually
No.
invented in the 1970s and were very
Yes.
successful and very profitable for investors until
Mhm.
the aughts, when they basically ran out of AAA rated mortgages that they could bundle into these securities. So they
Yeah.
started bundling these subprime mortgages into it, and you end up playing a game of Jenga where one of the uh, subprime mortgages fails and the whole thing falls down.
Falls apart. Yes, sir. I
And
remember that.
also, you look at margin call. Well, actually, uh, to some extent, I don't know how margin call, but shorting a stock,
Big
for
Short. Yeah, the
there's
Big
nothing wrong
Short
with
was
shorting a stock if you
no.
know or can predict. You're not using insider information, but if you say this stock is going to go south, okay, well, sell the stock while it's valuable, and
Mhm.
then buy it back when things bottom out. And that's a legitimate way of making money. You may not, in your own ethical system, may think it's the right thing to do, but there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
Uh,
there are
so,
many tools, resources, and strategies out there to help people make money. That's
mhm,
why it's important to work with an advisor, to educate yourself, to be informed, and see what works for you. Because there's no one size fits all.
mhm,
You have to use these resources that can actually work in your favor for your benefit. So therefore, the most important thing is to be informed, study, and then ask for help. Have a second set of eyes. Have someone that does this for their actual profession day to day versus just, winging it. We don't wing it when it comes to medicine. We don't wing it when it comes to law. Why so when it comes to finances?
absolutely. So I mentioned before. All right, so we have the negative image of the financial planner, and but people also might think that, well, financial planners are for rich people. I don't have enough money. I'm in my 20s and I'm just starting out and I don't have a lot of money to invest or save, and I don't have much of a portfolio. Maybe I'm not ready for one yet. Do you find that to be a misconception among people?
That's a common misconception. That's also something I've heard while doing education and teaching education to different people.
Mhm,
They're like, "Oh, I can't afford this. I don't need this right now." It's actually when you do need it is when you think you don't sometimes.
mhm,
Um, 70% of wealth is lost within the first generation, 90% within the second generation.
mhm,
And what you're seeing is simple strategies, titling your accounts correctly, setting up a will. A will, as you're an attorney, a
mhm.
will is just a document that's notarized, right?
Well, it's a set of instructions on what happens to your stuff when you die,
hmm
essentially.
But in order for it to be official, you just need to have notarized, correct?
It should be notarized and properly witnessed. Different states have different rules on
Yes.
what makes a properly executed will, but yeah, there's
Yes.
a process.
So through that process, if you have the proper witness and it's notarized and it goes through the necessary process, that family can have their instructions followed, even if it has to go through probate.
Mm,
Correct?
Yeah.
So what happens now is if by doing that you're protecting your assets. You think that you don't need it, but something as simple as that would help protect assets for generations.
Hmm.
And by establishing a will, having a financial planner, working with an attorney, a few $100s here and there can help protect hundreds and thousands of millions of dollars. You know,
Hmm.
you think that you can't afford an advisor. There are advisors that work with you every step of the way. Some advisors will help you build your wealth. Start off when you have nothing and work with you to manage, a couple $100, a couple $1,000 portfolio. Some advisors, you have to have over 5, 10 million to work with them. Some advisors, you have to have $100 million to even, get access to their portfolios and resources.
Wow.
There are different tiers of advisors for every asset and net worth, realm. And what you need to know is there's an advisor out there for you. There's someone out there who's looking to work with you. It's just your job to also seek them. Seek who's seeking you. What you want is out there looking to find you.
Hmm.
Objectively, look for them, ask them questions, vet them, and see how they're a good fit because you have to go with a good fit for you, not just one size fits all. There's no blanket coverage or statement that applies to everyone.
Hmm. So let's talk about looking for the right financial advisor. There's
Hmm.
someone for everyone. Obviously, there are some financial advisors where you aren't rich enough. But the idea that
Hmm.
none of them can help you is what the misconception is. So, how can the everyday person tell the difference between a genuine financial advisor and someone who's really just a salesperson in disguise?
That's a great question. And as I've been in the industry throughout different companies,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen great salespeople and I've met great people who are in sales.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all the same. Some people who are great salespeople know how to sell. They may only pitch one product. They may not do what's best for you. What you need to look for is someone who's looking at bringing solutions,
Mm-hmm.
someone who's a fiduciary who puts your interests ahead of theirs, someone who has partners and is constantly working the network in order to provide resources in relation to your issues or your pain points.
Mm-hmm.
Selling is one thing, solving is another.
Mm-hmm.
So a great salesman is going to pitch you. He's going to have they say if you have a hammer, every problem's a nail. But it might it may not be a situation that requires a hammer. It may require a screwdriver, a drill. It may be a completely different set of situations that apply to this scenario. So what you really want to do is find someone that puts you first, works with you, and if they're a licensed individual, you can go to FINRA broker check and pull up their license,
Mm-hmm.
pull up their history, make sure they have a clean license or explainable situations on their license. You can do your due diligence and review them. You
Mm-hmm.
can Google them. You can find out information about them and make the best informed decision for yourself. But go to FINRA broker check, pull up their SEC if they're 66 or 65 license, ask for their insurance, make sure it's active, and make sure they're not selling you product that they can't actually sell to you.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure they're informed about what they're bringing to you, and that they're in the best situation for you.
Right. Well, it's interesting. In meeting with financial planners and deciding which one to hire,
Hmm.
going back to uh, movies that create a negative impression of financial advisors or finance people. If you go to The
Hmm.
Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort's exercise at the end of the movie, and in the movie, "Sell me this pen."
Yes.
And he was at a talk one time after he got out of jail, and he was taking questions, and one of the person in the audience got up and said, "Could you sell me this pen?"
Hmm.
And he laughed and he said, "It's a common exercise among salespeople that some of them will just try to sell you the pen,
Hmm.
but they're not asking questions. They're not saying, 'Oh, really? You're shopping for a pen? What kind of pen are you looking for? A ballpoint, an ink gel, a fountain pen? Do you want something that's heirloom quality, or do you just want something that is disposable you can buy in a pack of 10?" You ask questions, you find out what is the best pen for that person to see. And then if your pen is, then you can use that information to sell the pen. But if that
Mhm.
person, if that financial advisor starts out trying to sell you something without asking a lot of questions first, that's a big old red flag, I would think.
Yes, that's a red flag, and it's a dichotomy to that entire situation. You
Mhm.
have to ask them questions, they have to ask you questions.
Right,
If they're trying to sell you things instead of asking you questions and making sure we're a good fit, that's where, you can tell if you're not working with an advisor that's best for you. And even as far as advisors, you may not be the best client for us.
hmm
We may not want to work with you either. But seasoned, experienced advisors know not all clients are good clients. Not
right,
all clients are the best clients for you. You have to have your client avatar, your profile of what you're looking for, and see who's the best fit for you. And sometimes we have to turn someone away because it doesn't make sense. But
right.
if someone's just trying to pick up anything and sell everything to you, you can smell commission breath. They're just trying to make a dollar off of you. And before you know it, you're into something that didn't apply, wasn't a good fit, because the person didn't care about your needs. They weren't acting as a fiduciary, putting your best interest first. They're just looking to make a quick buck. But to
Mhm.
your point with the Jordan Belfort example, in retrospect, when you look at what he was saying, the perfect scenario was him asking questions and
Mhm.
making sure you're a perfect fit for what he was selling. And if you're not, then you move on. As
Right.
advisors, as salesmen, you understand it's a numbers game at times. Not every single person is going to be good for you. No one bats 1,000, but that percentage of people that qualify for your program, that actually are a good fit, those are the ones you work with. And everyone else, you can refer them out. And that's why I know other advisors who, may be a better fit for someone. Or, you can refer them to banks, and banks have advisors within their own institutions.
Mhm.
Everyone has a solution out there for them. They just have to find that. That's why it's about seeks who seeks you.
Mhm.
What's out there, what you're looking for is out there looking for you as well.
So not only in talking to these financial advisors and vetting them and deciding who to hire, not only
Mhm.
listening to, whether they're trying to sell you something, but whether they're not trying to sell you something, whether they're actually starting to ask questions that might push you away
Yeah.
because that you're interviewing each other, and that's absolutely right. And sometimes, and I advise, I on the side, I look to coach, solo and small firm attorneys, and looking and say you want the high valued clients. You don't want the people that are
Yes.
going to waste your time that aren't a good fit, and
No.
that you should have an intake system that uh, asks questions around your avatar to determine whether this person is a good fit. So you may even be repelled or find out they're not the right fit even before you meet with the financial advisor.
True. And that is a positive indicator of someone who's seasoned at what they do. If they can let you know if you're a good fit for them or not.
Mhm.
Because someone who's new, who's looking just to make money, just sell you something, they're taking
Mhm.
everyone.
Right.
Someone who's experienced and seasoned will be able to tell you, you know what, this may not be a great fit for you, but I may have other solutions for you.
Mhm.
And they're still bringing you solutions even as they turn you away.
Mhm.
That
Now,
because
go ahead.
objectively, time is the most valuable asset that we have.
Mhm.
And you don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste the other person's time. And if it's worth the time, then you move forward. If it's not, then you move on.
Mhm. Well, you mentioned the word fiduciary earlier, and I wanted to get back to that. For our listeners out there, can you explain what a fiduciary is and why it matters when choosing who to work with?
So a fiduciary is a person who legally and ethically has the obligation to put your best interest as a client ahead of their own.
Mhm.
That's what the beneficiary would be, and that's what a fiduciary is at the core of its definition. But as an advisor, a fiduciary will look to put the client's needs ahead of their own. So if there's a product that they can sell that may be a higher commission or a different scenario, the fiduciary should obsess all of the resources and solutions out there and make the best recommendation for the client instead of for themselves or their financial and economic interests.
Right. So if you start hearing what they're saying and it doesn't sound like it's for you,
Hmm.
or they may be recommending something that in your mind doesn't fit in with what your goals are, then
Hmm.
you know that they're not putting your needs first. They're just trying to sell you something.
And these are indicators or red flags, as you would call it, um, as to who to work with and who not to work with. But you need to be, seasoned and adept as to what you're looking for. So the
Mhm.
most important thing is learning what a fiduciary is, asking the advisor, are you a fiduciary? Can I get your broker check? Like, can I review your license? What's your experience? Do you have a few references? It's important to be able to have these conversations and know what you're looking for in an advisor and making sure you can vet them as well as they're vetting you.
Right. Well, talking about the vetting process, what questions should someone ask when they're interviewing a potential financial advisor? What should they be asking the advisor as opposed to what the advisor is asking them? What are the
Great
green
question.
flags and more importantly, the red flags with those questions?
So red flags, green flags. Let's start there. Asking if you're a fiduciary, how many years of experience you have, what licenses you currently carry. Asking to review their previous history of experience, broker check, asking for references, making sure that you can get an idea of who they've serviced in the past, and if it's a comp to what you are or
Mm,
you're looking for, then maybe it's a good fit for you. But red flags is just someone who's just selling one product, and there's nothing wrong with selling one product because there difference between generalists and people who are specific in what they do. An orthopedic surgeon isn't going to do what a chiropractor does,
no.
or a cardiothoracic surgeon isn't going to do what a heart surgeon does. So everyone has their specialty, and it's good to operate in your specialty, but within your specialty, you'll know if someone's a good candidate for what you do or not. Being
Mm,
able to refer out, being having a network of people that you can work with, that's a green flag. Something that says that I'm not good for you, but someone else is. Those
mm,
are positive. Someone who's just trying to push their product onto you no matter what you say to them is not listening, is not asking questions. You can get a sense of if this person is trying to, or operate in your best interest or not. However, the reason why it's difficult to initially assess this right away without having the questions and the experience is because some people are such great salesmen or saleswomen or salespeople that they can sell you irrespective of what you know and what you think initially.
mm,
Experience and time will show if the results were applicable to your situation, if it was a good fit for you. But being sold is possible. Anybody can fall into that scenario. So therefore, being informed, being educated, being prepared going into those circumstances and situations is what's most important. So that when someone's trying to sell, you can still, get through that and make sure that you get what you want out of the situation versus them getting what they want out of the situation.
mhm. So you mentioned some fiduciaries will or financial planners will specialize in particular areas,
Mhm.
like I said, a thoracic surgeon or a podiatrist or whatever,
Mhm.
very different things. What kind of questions can people ask to determine whether that advisor's specialty might be the right fit for what their goals are and what they need to do?
Um, Ask them particularly, like, what's your specialty? What do you focus on? Do you sell? Are you focused more on stocks, bonds? Do you do full scale financial planning? Do you just trade? Do you trade securities? Do you trade funds? Do you create portfolios? Do you know about life insurance? Like, ask them what their specialties are, what their knowledge is in
Mm,
different, you know, situations, and therefore you can start getting an idea of what they know, what they focus on. Because someone who does life insurance, if you start talking about stocks, they might not be well versed in the area.
mm,
They may not be able to help you as much, but they'll put you in a mutual fund in an ETF and say set it and forget it, because that's all they know. They don't know anything else.
right.
Someone who just does stocks, if you start talking about life insurance, if they're an objective advisor, they'll refer you to someone else. If not, they say, who needs insurance? Let me just buy you the stock. I'll make you enough money to last you a lifetime. Like,
Mm,
you just have to know what their specialties are, what their suite of services are, what they actually can offer, what they're well versed in, and what they're not. Sometimes what someone is not good in is just as important as what they are, because you'll know what they specialize, what they can offer to you at a high level.
mhm.
You want to make sure you're working with an expert in that field, in that vertical, in that area, not just someone who's going to sell you anything just because they want to sell it to you.
Mhm. Or maybe the follow-up question, you find out what their specialties are and say, all right, you specialize in X, Y, and Z. how can you help me meet my goals by using X, Y, and Z?
Mm-hmm.
So whether those specialties are even applicable to your situation, and by asking that question, you can both you and the advisor can suss out whether you're a good fit.
So when it comes to specialties, you can work with an advisor who can help you in that one area.
Mm,
Ideally, you need a comprehensive plan. That's why you work with a financial planner. A
right.
financial planner, a fiduciary, will work with the CPAs and the attorneys and other advisors, a health insurance broker or advisor, life insurance. Maybe they don't offer securities investments directly, but they can work with a security advisor or a broker or a financial advisor. So a financial planner may have the capability to do all of that, or if they don't, they have the relationship to help you accomplish a goal.
Mm,
At the end of the day, you should be able to accomplish your comprehensive goals
uh-huh.
with an individual that has a team or an individual that refers to a team.
Mm,
But no matter what, you're always going to need a team to help get this done.
mm,
So if that person has a team of people they work with, is a positive because that shows that they have the relationships and the resources to help you get results. If they don't, it may not be a positive because it's going to show that they have a one size fits all and maybe just looking to push one product, or they haven't established it yet and haven't thought about your needs. You have to anticipate someone's needs and goals because they say battles are won and fought before they're lost. So if I know that someone may need an attorney that specializes in what Steve does, and I have a relationship with Steve, then I can introduce them to you, and you can help them out with respect to what you focus on.
mm,
But if I know that they may have a need in your area, and I don't know you, and I don't look out to build those relationships, then I'm coming up short for my client. So
mm,
establishing a team, having comprehensive solutions and resources is an absolute benefit to your relationships and your clients.
mm,
And having that established and put in place beforehand is key in order to help create a successful outcome for your relationship and your clients.
mm. Okay, so we have someone who they've decided on a financial planner. The financial
Mm-hmm.
planner believes it's a good fit, and they start working together.
Mm-hmm.
Could you give us an idea of what a healthy, productive relationship is with a financial advisor and how it looks day to day going forward?
Great question. So it all depends, and most great answers typically start with all depends because there isn't a one size fits all. But let's say you have a relationship and it's somebody in managed money. If they're in managed money, you may have a quarterly meeting with them. You may have biannual meetings with them, or annual meetings. As long as there's communication in
Mm,
place, so that when the advisor needs to communicate or the client is being updated.
mm,
If you're investing for a client and you're buying and selling securities, you need to call them before every trade. You're constantly communicating with them. You may call them daily. You may call them 2 or 3 times a week, depending on how much activity you have in the account. Hey, Steve, we're looking to buy this and sell this or repositioning here. So the communication needs to be commensurate or proportionate to how much activity you have
mm,
and the relationship that you have in place. So if you're a broker who's transactional, you have a lot more communication as an advisor who may be fee based and has, discretion over the account.
mm,
It all depends on the relationship. So communication is key, 3, 4 times a year on a managed account,
mm,
daily or weekly on a brokerage account. It's essential, but a healthy relationship has the necessary amount of communication depending on the type of account you have.
mm.
So if you have a brokerage, daily, weekly, if you have a managed, maybe monthly, quarterly, it's all going to depend on what you currently are doing.
Mhm. So if you're just doing buy and hold with mutual funds and you're putting together something into a Roth IRA and you say, here's my money to put into the whatever funds are in the Roth IRA, then they
Mhm.
buy it and that's it. They invest it after you. I mean, obviously you're going to discuss what funds are in that IRA, what you're going to put
Yes.
into it.
Yes.
But it's buy and hold. You're just going to sit there and that's it. So you're not going to have that much communication because it isn't necessary. But you saying that there might be a type of financial advisor that is regularly buying and selling stocks within a portfolio, and they might communicate
More
weekly or maybe
frequently.
more often than that?
Yeah, yes. So the frequency depends on the activity
Uh-huh.
and the premise of the relationship. So if it's a managed portfolio and you're managing the account and you're reaching out to your client, you definitely want to have a certain level of communication
Mm,
because responsive increases or equals revenue. So
right.
if you're not responsive, they may want to go to someone else. If you're not reaching out to them, they may want to transfer to someone else. You definitely want to be working with them, informing them, working alongside, providing recommendations. We may want to rebalance because we see X, Y, and Z happening in the market. These issues are something we can anticipate. So we may want to reposition our portfolio from this to that. You always want to look and do what's best for the client and anticipate and not react. And if even if you're reacting, communicate. There's times communication is key in every step of the way, whether you're, executing a certain strategy, changing a strategy. Communication is key with managed money, but even more important if you're trading for a client on a regular basis, because if you're buying and selling, you have to call the client. Hey, we're looking to buy this. We're looking to sell this. And
Mm,
the frequency of it is going to depend on the type of relationship. So if the broker's relationship and you're trading with the client that way,
mm,
then yes, you're going to reach out to them on a more regular basis because you're speaking to them prior to the trade, after things happen, and reviewing it. If it's a managed relationship, you may speak to the client less frequently because it's not necessary to call about X, Y, and Z trades. However, it still requires a certain level of communications because you want to make sure they're informed and understand what's happening and are basically on the same page as you with the overall strategy.
mhm. So, just to for the folks out there, if you decide you're going to put it buy and hold in a mutual fund or even better an index fund, an index mutual fund that basically follows and is indexed to a particular uh, uh, metric. Like you have one that's tied to the S&P 500 or to the Dow Industrial Average or any number of different metrics. Essentially, there's going to be buy and sell activity within that fund to in order for it to follow what that index is doing. So that communication really isn't as necessary because the fiduciary put the money into the fund, and then the people that run that fund are buying and selling to index it. So there really isn't that need to have that communication. But if you're buying individual stocks, then you have a more active market. Something might be going on. They might be in the company might be have reported uh, financial problems in a quarterly call. So hey, you might want to sell this stock, or this one's going up. You might want to buy more. There's so much more to talk about with individual stocks than with index
Yes.
funds, right?
Yes. And with the index, it's just, you're following the index. So therefore, you buy a particular index and it just follows that underlying instrument or
Hmm.
security.
Absolutely. Uh, so your work in financial literacy and your nonprofit clearly a big part of who you are.
It,
So how's that
yes.
mission shaped the way you approach advising your clients?
It actually has a direct correlation to that because whether I'm teaching or I'm providing advice, education is the foundation of it all. I want to
Mm,
make sure they're informed about what we're looking to do, investing in, um, approaching or the activity that we're embarking on. So
mm,
whatever the recommendation may be, I want them to be fully informed, understand the story, the company, the background, history, fundamentals, technicals, the whole nine.
mm,
And education is at the forefront of that. So therefore, once they're fully informed, they're educated, they can make the best decision. And that's across the board. And
mm,
that should be with every advisor. You should educate your clients and teach them about things and make sure that they're informed before they make the recommendation, because I teach you, I educate you, then I recommend it. And if it works for you because you fully understand it, great. If it doesn't, you want to pass, great. There's nothing wrong with that, but at least you know what you're doing.
mm,
And that's what happened. That was a precursor for '07 and '08. People didn't really understand what they were doing.
mm,
They didn't really get with that second, third, fourth interest only mortgage that eventually had to be principal and interest, a balloon mortgage, or things of that nature that impacted them later on in life. They didn't really understand. They just understood the benefits right now, but not the overall impact and outcome of the instrument that they were signing up for. So if you can educate and position someone for their best outcome, then that creates the best possible overall scenario.
Mhm. So yeah, and that comes in with in my experience with estate planning. Another attorney colleague of mine who does it said a lot of times in his experience, people come in to sign the documents and admit they really don't know what the documents say. They don't understand the language.
Yeah,
And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, you're signing something you don't really understand. So,
and that's when you can make the
I see
biggest
your point.
mistakes.
Lawyers too have to be educators. They had, let me translate the legalese. Do you have any questions about what your will says, what your trust document says,
Mhm.
etc.? So that's very important.
Extremely important.
So let's say we have someone out there who had a bad experience with a financial advisor. They got burned or let down.
Mhm.
Uh, what would you say to them to help them decide whether they should try again?
Um, well, that's a great question, and I look at it like this. I mean, are you married, Steve?
Yes.
I'm married as well. So before I got married, obviously we dated, and there are people that didn't work out,
Mm-hmm.
right? So just because one situation didn't work out, you have to learn from it, and then you know what you're looking for in your next situation. It's the
Mm-hmm.
same thing with a financial advisor. I've had people who have had bad situations and bad circumstances with a previous advisor, and I don't want to take a black eye for a fight I wasn't in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to have that affect me or impact me. Let me show you how I'm different. But
Mm-hmm.
you should always learn from previous situations as to what you want to do in your next circumstance. What do you want to do in the next scenario? What do you want to do in the next, financial advisor relationship or my next attorney? What
Mm-hmm.
am I looking for? What did I learn from the past? You have to be learning as much as you are protecting yourself from a bad situation. So
Mm-hmm.
that's as important, if not more important than what happened to you, is you learning from the situation, you learning from the history, you learning from that bad scenario, and seeing how, in moving forward, you can prevent it from happening. What guardrails do you have internally? What guardrails do you have for yourself that will prevent you from having that type of thing happen to you?
Mm-hmm.
These are the
So,
type of questions you should ask yourself, and that provides introspective perspective for the person. Like, how do I protect myself? What did I learn from that situation?
mhm. Yeah, learn from that mistake. Learn from, obviously that being burned taught you something. And
Exactly.
now you know more questions to ask to be
Hmm.
proactive. That bad experience educated you in how to make sure it doesn't happen again. Uh,
Exactly. And it
and
just goes back to the situation. If I stopped dating because of this or that ex, I wouldn't find my wife. You
right.
still have to be open to finding the best fit for you, but you use that previous situation, that
Mhm.
previous circumstance, you learn from it, you become more educated, and you learn about yourself as well.
Yeah, I don't know who the quote came from, but we were talking about marriages and things like that. It said that marriages are the triumph of hope over experience. And I think that can apply to financial advisors to say, look, you had a bad experience. Now you know who not to marry.
Exactly.
So that comes in. So
Yeah.
I guess to wrap it up, what's the single most important thing that you wish everyone listening here understood about working with a financial advisor before they make that decision?
The vetting process.
Mm,
The vetting process is the single most important thing. Being informed, being educated, having a strong sense or some sense of financial literacy, and also knowing what you're looking for out of the relationship before you go into it.
mm.
Knowing who you're looking for, because not everyone's a good fit for you, but when you find that fit, it's going to work.
Okay, good. So, if listeners out there heard what you had to say today, the great information, and wants to work with you, how can they reach out to you? How can they contact you?
You can go to farrelliger.com for financial education, info at farrelliger.com. We will be able to help teach and inform and educate. And then with respect to that realm and that vertical, anything you want to learn about when it comes to financial literacy, financial education, we'll be able to help you. You know, one-on-one seminars, group seminars, and webinars we'll be able to put together in order to execute.
Okay. So a lot of what you do is education based.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if folks said they got a taste of what you had to say and what you had to teach people, and they want to learn more, then that's the best way to do it, is reach out to you on your website.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Well, Farrell, I appreciate you coming on the show,
It was a pleasure, Steve. I appreciate your time today.
yeah, it's a great topic, and I'm sure our listeners learned a lot on working with financial advisors. As I said, I always tell people, work with a professional. Have someone advise you on. Don't try and do it yourself. The chances of failure are high. Work with a good fiduciary, with a good financial planner, to maximize your chances for success. So, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Steve.
Mhm.